In the vast expanse of the cosmos, humanity had always harbored a fascination for the unknown. Their curiosity, boundless and relentless, led them to the farthest reaches of space. It was in one such remote corner, on a planet designated Xylo 4, that they encountered something truly extraordinary. The expedition team, comprised of scientists, engineers, and soldiers, had landed on Xylo 4 with the intent to study its unique ecosystem. The planet, though harsh and desolate, held the promise of untapped resources and potential habitats. What they didn't expect to find was life. Dr. Amelia Carter, the lead xenobiologist, was the first to spot it. Nestled within the crevices of a rocky outcrop was a creature unlike any they had ever seen. It was small, no larger than a child, with a body covered in iridescent scales that shimmered under the twin suns of Xylo 4. Its eyes, large and expressive, seemed to hold the weight of an entire universe. The creature was injured, its breath shallow and labored. The team quickly set up a temporary shelter, shielding it from the harsh elements. Dr. Carter and her team worked tirelessly to stabilize the alien, using every tool and technique at their disposal. Despite their efforts, it became clear that the creature was dying. On its last night, as the team gathered around it, the alien spoke. Its voice, a soft melodic hum, resonated in their minds rather than their ears. The words it uttered were in a language no human had ever encountered, yet somehow they understood. "Beware the silent ones," it said, each word a struggle. "They come with promises of peace, but their hearts are filled with shadows. They will destroy all that you hold dear if you do not heed my warning." The words echoed in the minds of the expedition team, leaving them in stunned silence. The creature's eyes closed for the last time, its body going still. Dr. Carter gently closed its eyes, a profound sense of loss washing over her. The team recorded the creature's final words and the encounter, sending the data back to Earth. However, the message was met with skepticism and indifference. The authorities dismissed it as the ravings of a dying alien, not worth the resources or time to investigate further. The scientists were ordered to continue their primary mission of resource extraction and planetary survey. But Dr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The alien's warning gnawed at her, a constant reminder of the unknown threats lurking in the vastness. As the weeks passed, the team continued their work, but the atmosphere had changed. There was a palpable tension among them, a sense of dread that hung over every discovery and exploration. Dr. Carter began to notice subtle changes in the environment, things that seemed out of place. Strange shadows that moved against the light, whispers in the wind that carried words she couldn't quite make out. One night, as she sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the data from the day's expedition, she heard a noise. It was faint at first, like the rustling of leaves. But there were no leaves on Xylo 4, only rocks and dust. The sound grew louder, closer, until it was right outside her door. She stood, heart pounding, and slowly opened the door. The corridor was empty, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. She closed the door quickly, locking it behind her. The sense of unease intensified, and she knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. Dr. Carter decided to dig deeper into the alien's warning. She began to gather all the data they had collected, looking for patterns, clues, anything that might shed light on the silent ones. She reached out to her colleagues, sharing her concerns and findings. Some were receptive, sharing their own experiences and observations, while others dismissed her fears as paranoia. As she delved deeper, Dr. Carter discovered something alarming. There were records of similar warnings from other expeditions, scattered across different planets and star systems. Each account spoke of an encounter with a dying alien, each one delivering a cryptic message about the silent ones. The details varied, but the core warning was always the same. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Dr. Carter compiled her findings into a comprehensive report and sent it to Earth with an urgent request for further investigation. This time, the response was different. The authorities could no longer ignore the mounting evidence, and a special task force was formed to investigate the silent ones. As the task force prepared for their mission, Dr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Silent Ones were out there, somewhere, and she feared that humanity's indifference had already set them on a path of no return. She could only hope that it wasn't too late, that the warnings of a dying alien would be enough to save them from the shadows lurking in the depths of space. The mission to uncover the truth about the Silent Ones had begun, and Dr. Carter knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. She steeled herself for the journey ahead, determined to honor the dying words of the alien and ensure that they were not ignored. Dr. Amelia Carter stood on the deck of the research vessel, staring at the vast expanse of space. The stars seemed to whisper secrets she was desperate to uncover. The newly formed task force had been given access to cutting-edge technology, and their ship, the ISS Sentinel, was equipped with the latest in surveillance and defense systems. She hoped it would be enough. The task force consisted of an eclectic mix of specialists: xenobiologists, engineers, linguists, and seasoned soldiers. Each member was carefully selected for their expertise and ability to handle the unknown. Among them was Captain David Mercer, a veteran of numerous deep space missions, known for his strategic mind and unyielding resolve. Dr. Carter gathered the team in the briefing room, projecting a holographic map of the known galaxy. She highlighted several points where similar warnings about the Silent Ones had been recorded. "We have reports from 7 different star systems," she began, her voice steady but urgent. "Each one encountered a dying alien. Each one warned of the Silent Ones. We need to understand who or what they are and why they pose such a threat." Captain Mercer nodded, his expression grim. "Our first destination will be the Gamma Hydra system. It's the most recent report and the closest to our current location. We'll start there." As the ISS Sentinel jumped to faster-than-light travel, the crew prepared for the unknown. Dr. Carter worked closely with the linguists to decode any potential messages or symbols they might encounter. Meanwhile, the engineers fine-tuned the ship's sensors, enhancing their ability to detect even the faintest anomalies. Upon arriving in the Gamma Hydra system, the team immediately set to work. They scanned the area, looking for any signs of life or unusual activity. After several hours, they detected a faint energy signature coming from a nearby moon. "That's our first lead," said Dr. Carter, her excitement barely contained. The team donned their EVA suits and boarded the shuttle, descending to the moon's surface. The landscape was barren, covered in jagged rocks and a thin layer of dust. The energy signature led them to a series of underground tunnels. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and the sense of unease intensified. In the heart of the tunnels, they found remnants of an ancient civilization. Strange symbols adorned the walls, glowing faintly with an eerie light. Dr. Carter and the linguists immediately began recording and analyzing the symbols. "This language is similar to the one spoken by the alien on Xylo 4, noted Dr. Jameson, the lead linguist. "But it's much more complex. It could take weeks, even months, to fully decode." Dr. Carter's attention was drawn to a central chamber where a massive, ornate door stood sealed. The symbols on the door seemed to pulse with energy. She approached it cautiously, her heart pounding. "Let's open it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The team worked together, using a combination of advanced tools and old-fashioned muscle to pry the door open. Inside, they found a room filled with holographic projections. Images of different star systems, detailed schematics of alien technology, and, most disturbing of all, depictions of massive, shadowy figures looming over planets, their eyes cold and unfeeling. "These must be the Silent Ones," said Captain Mercer, his voice tense. "We need to understand their intentions and capabilities." As they recorded the data, Dr. Carter noticed a console in the center of the room. It seemed to be the control hub for the holograms. She activated it, and a holographic figure appeared, resembling the alien from Xylo 4. "To those who find this," the figure began, speaking in a language that the team's translator quickly converted. "The Silent Ones are a race of conquerors. They travel from system to system, offering peace and prosperity. But it is a facade. They strip planets of their resources, enslave the inhabitants, and move on, leaving nothing but desolation. The figure continued, outlining the Silent One's tactics and technology. It spoke of their ability to manipulate minds, turning allies into enemies, and their relentless pursuit of domination. Dr. Carter felt a chill run down her spine. The warnings were clear, but now they had concrete evidence. The Silent Ones were real, and their threat was imminent. "We need to get this information back to Earth," said Captain Mercer. "The galaxy needs to be prepared for what's coming." As they made their way back to the shuttle, the ground trembled. An ominous hum filled the air, and the walls of the tunnel began to crack. "We've been detected," shouted one of the soldiers. "We need to move now." The team sprinted towards the exit, the tunnel collapsing around them. They barely made it to the surface, the shuttle lifting off just as the moon's surface gave way to a massive sinkhole. Back on the ISS Sentinel, Dr. Carter and Captain Mercer reviewed the data. The evidence was irrefutable. They transmitted the findings to Earth, marking the beginning of a galactic defense initiative. The task force set a course for the next star system, knowing that their mission was far from over. The Silent Ones were out there, and humanity's survival depended on understanding and countering their threat. Dr. Carter steeled herself for the challenges ahead, knowing that each discovery brought them one step closer to unveiling the true nature of the Silent Ones. The ISS Sentinel emerged from hyperspace into the orbit of Zeta Reticuli 3, a planet that had long been on humanity's radar for its unique mineral deposits. However, this time, their mission was different. The task force knew that somewhere on this planet lay another clue about the Silent Ones. Dr. Amelia Carter and her team quickly scanned the surface, pinpointing a location where unusual energy signatures were detected. They descended to a dense, mist-covered forest, the air thick with humidity and the scent of unfamiliar flora. Navigating through the dense foliage, the team discovered an ancient structure partially hidden by vines and moss. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, with sleek metallic surfaces juxtaposed against organic flowing shapes. Inside the structure, the air was cool and still. The walls were covered in the same mysterious symbols they had encountered on the previous planet. Dr. Carter felt a shiver of recognition as she traced the patterns with her fingers. As they ventured deeper, they came upon a large chamber with a raised platform at its center. On the platform lay a crystalline object, pulsing with a soft blue light. Dr. Carter approached it cautiously. "This must be some kind of data storage," she speculated. "If we can access its contents, we might learn more about the Silent Ones." Using a portable decryption device, the team connected to the crystal. As the data began to flow, holographic images filled the room. They saw a series of events unfold: a peaceful planet thriving with life, the arrival of the Silent Ones' ships, and the subsequent devastation as the planet's resources were harvested and its inhabitants enslaved. The final image was the most chilling: a fleet of Silent Ones' ships converging on a new target. The coordinates were unmistakable. It was Earth. "We have to warn them," said Captain Mercer, his voice heavy with urgency. "We need to get this information to the highest authorities immediately." Before they could act, a deep rumble shook the structure. The ground beneath them began to crack, and the walls trembled. The team rushed to escape as the building started to collapse. Outside, the forest was alive with movement. Strange robotic creatures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. They were scouts of the Silent Ones, sent to protect their secrets. The team fought their way through, using advanced weaponry to disable the scouts. The ISS Sentinel shuttle was waiting, engines humming with readiness. They boarded quickly, lifting off just as the structure caved in behind them. Back on the ISS Sentinel, Dr. Carter and her team decrypted the remaining data. They found detailed plans of the Silent Ones' invasion strategy, their technology, and their weaknesses. The data was a goldmine, but time was running out. As the ISS Sentinel made its way back to Earth, the team prepared their report. They knew the information they carried was crucial for humanity's survival. The Silent Ones were powerful, but they were not invincible. Upon arriving, the data was immediately transmitted to Earth's Defense Command. The response was swift. A global coalition was formed, pooling resources and knowledge to prepare for the impending invasion. Dr. Carter and Captain Mercer were summoned to a high-level briefing with world leaders. They laid out their findings, the holographic images playing out the grim reality of what was to come. "We have a chance," Dr. Carter said, her voice resolute. "The Silent Ones rely on fear and deception. If we unite and use the knowledge we've gained, we can stand against them." The leaders nodded, the weight of the situation settling over them. Plans were set into motion, defenses bolstered, and alliances strengthened. As Earth braced for the arrival of the Silent Ones, the task force knew their work was far from over. They had uncovered crucial information, but the real battle was just beginning. Dr. Carter felt a sense of determination unlike any she had ever known. The Silent Ones had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now they would face the full strength of a united world. The skies over Earth darkened as the first of the Silent One's ships breached the atmosphere. They were massive, ominous constructs, gliding silently through the air. Humanity's combined military forces were ready, their weapons primed and defenses activated. Dr. Amelia Carter stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the live feed of the invasion. Beside her, Captain David Mercer coordinated the defense efforts with military leaders from around the world. Every screen displayed real-time data, tracking the movements of the alien fleet. "Remember," Dr. Carter said to the room full of strategists and scientists, "the Silent Ones thrive on fear and chaos. We need to stay united and focused." The first wave of the attack was met with fierce resistance. Earth's defense systems, bolstered by the knowledge gleaned from the alien data, managed to hold off the initial assault. Anti-aircraft missiles and energy shields took down several of the Silent Ones' ships, sending them crashing into the ocean. But the Silent Ones adapted quickly. They unleashed swarms of their robotic scouts, similar to those encountered on Zeta Reticuli 3. These scouts infiltrated cities, targeting key infrastructure and sowing panic among the population. Dr. Carter and her team worked tirelessly to find a way to disable the scouts. They discovered a frequency that could disrupt the robots' communication systems, rendering them inoperative. This information was broadcasted globally, allowing ground forces to turn the tide against the invaders. As the battle raged on, a new threat emerged. The Silent One's mothership descended, casting a shadow over the eastern seaboard of the United States. It was an immense structure, bristling with unknown technology. "We need to take out that mothership," Captain Mercer said, his voice calm but urgent. "It's the command center for their entire fleet." Dr. Carter nodded, already working on a plan. "We can use the data from the crystalline storage to find a vulnerability. If we can upload a virus into their central system, we might be able to shut it down." A team of the best hackers and engineers was assembled. Using the decrypted alien data, they crafted a virus designed to exploit the mothership's systems. Captain Mercer led a squadron of fighter jets to escort a specialized drone carrying the virus. The mission was perilous. As the squadron approached the mothership, they were met with heavy resistance. Alien fighters swarmed them, and anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky. The drone, however, made it through, navigating through the barrage with precision. Inside the command center, tension was palpable. Every eye was on the screen displaying the drone's progress. Dr. Carter's fingers flew over the keyboard, guiding the drone towards the mothership's core. "We're almost there," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The drone reached the core and began the upload. The Silent One's defenses reacted instantly, trying to sever the connection. The room held its breath as the progress bar inched forward. Finally, with seconds to spare, the upload completed. The mothership shuddered, its lights flickering. Then, in a cascade of explosions, its systems began to fail. The massive structure started to break apart, pieces of it plummeting into the ocean below. A cheer erupted.